When the universe was divided, Zeus got heaven, Poseidon the water kingdom and Hades the underworld. His most powerful weapon, the trident or three-pronged harpoon, analogous to Zeus' thunderbolt, may originally represent the birth of waves and lightning. In Roman mythology, Poseidon's equivalent is the god Neptune. How did Poseidon, the god of the sea, appear in Greek mythology? Along with his brothers and sisters, Hestia, Demeter, Hades, Hera and Zeus, Poseidon was born from the union of Rhea and Cronus, the two titans who ruled the universe before the rise of the Olympians. When Cronos learned that one of his offspring was destined to steal his throne, he decided to devour his offspring. In the end, the mighty Zeus defeated the Titan, forcing him to regurgitate the other gods, including Poseidon. According to another version of this myth, it was Rhea who saved Poseidon using the same trick she used when she saved Zeus from being swallowed by Cronus. Thus, immediately after giving birth, Rhea hid her child, pretending to give birth to a foal, which she gave to Cronus to swallow. This variant of the Greek sea god's birth myth reflects, to some extent, Poseidon's association with horses. The Lord of the Seas fought fiercely alongside Zeus and his other brothers in the cataclysmic conflict known as the Titanomachy. After defeating the Titans, Zeus, Hades and Poseidon, being men and thus privileged to rule in Greek society, assumed control of the cosmos which they divided into several domains. In the end, the three brothers drew lots, and Poseidon won control of the rivers, seas, and oceans. Zeus got the kingdom of heaven, the most coveted domain, and Hades chose Tartarus. One of the most important Olympians and the second most powerful god after Zeus, Poseidon was seen by the ancient Greeks as defiant, unruly and rebellious. Although he was known primarily as the god of the seas and protector of sailors, his power extended to other areas. He could cause devastating earthquakes, but he was also a protector of animals, especially horses. Venerated throughout the Greek world, the cult of Poseidon was particularly powerful and influential, especially in port cities such as Athens and Corinth where numerous guilds of sailors and merchants had developed. Poseidon was as unruly as the seas he was thought to control. An instigator and rebel. The god of the seas figured prominently in Greek mythology because of his permanent opposition to Zeus' total control of the pantheon. In the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Lord of the Seas and Oceans is portrayed as a permanent disturbing presence. He used to intervene in the affairs of the other gods as well as ordinary mortals, often with dramatic results. But the myths and legends about the god of the seas also have a logical explanation. They were meant to give the ancient Greeks some illusion of control over the one area they could never fully master, the sea. As Poseidon was perceived as a god to be feared, he becomes, rather, a symbol of the turbulent sea, particularly dangerous, which at any moment could take innocent lives. The most fickle of the gods had numerous love affairs with goddesses and nymphs as well as mortal women, but fathered nothing but monsters and bandits. Poseidon, god of the seas in Greek mythology. Along with his wife Amphitrite, Poseidon dwelt in the abyssal depths of the sea. He often cleaved the waves in a chariot drawn by winged horses and was followed by a retinue of various sea creatures. Amphitrite was the daughter of Nereus, the old prophet of the seas, whom Poseidon fell in love with when he spotted her on the shores of the island of Naxos. The young woman was trapped in a Ora with her Nereid sisters. Fascinated by her beauty, the god of the sea tried to kidnap her, but the girl hid in the palace of Atlas, the one who held the whole sky on his strong shoulders. For a long time Poseidon searched for her, but finally he tracked her down with the help of a dolphin who revealed her hiding place. Poseidon kidnapped Amphitrite, took her as his wife, and rewarded the dolphin who helped him by turning him into a constellation in the sky. In the underwater palace a host of deities surround him and obey the god of the seas. Among them is Triton, one of the god's children, who blows his shell horn, raising fearful storms. Another deity is Nereus, the one who keeps all the secrets of the future. Nereus had 50 daughters, all equally beautiful, who protect the sailors who sail the seas, guiding their lucky path. Also in the underwater kingdom lives Proteus, who changes his appearance like the sea, turning into all sorts of different animals at will, as well as the god Glaucus, protector of fishermen and sailors. The Nereids, the sisters of the goddess Amphitrite, are also found among the sea creatures subordinate to Poseidon. Etymology. The god of the sea has been present in Greek religion since ancient times, his name being known since the Mycenaean period, ca 1600 to 1100 BC. Originally written in a script called Linear B, which predates the Greek alphabet, the god appears in Mycenaean texts as Posdao or Poseidon. Thus, the name Poseidon probably has roots in two distinct words. The first is the Greek term pausis, itself derived from the Proto-Indo-European root podes. Both words mean husband, lord or master. Some uncertainty surrounds the second linguistic element that makes up the god's name. One interpretation holds that it could come from the root da, meaning earth, which would make Poseidon translate as Lord of the Earth or perhaps even Husband of the Earth. The latter translation could indicate an association with Demeter, the earth goddess. Indeed, fragments appear in the earliest Mycenaean Greek references that suggest an intimate relationship between Poseidon and Demeter, and possibly between Poseidon and Persephone. The second interpretation is based on the connection with the term dawn, water, which would make Poseidon translate as Lord of the Waters. This theory links the god's name to the domain he rules, the sea. However, the association between the name Poseidon and the sea may be misleading, as none of the early Mycenaean references suggest that the term had anything to do with the ocean, water or sea. Nowadays, many linguists believe that the origins of the name Poseidon are pre-Greek and possibly not even Indo-European. Powers of Poseidon. Poseidon is usually depicted as a mature, robust and bearded god. His weapon is the trident, a three-headed spear with which he fought numerous battles, ruled the sea, and caused devastating earthquakes. A god of horses. Poseidon is often portrayed on horseback or in a chariot drawn by hippocampi, half-horse, half-snake sea creatures that glided over the waves. The god was also associated with other animals both on land and in the seas and oceans, including dolphins, seahorses and bulls. In addition to his residence on Mount Olympus, Poseidon also possessed beautiful underwater palaces adorned with coral, pearls, and precious stones. He owned a stable of magnificent horses as well as numerous horse studs throughout Greece. Family tree. Parents. Kronos. Rhea. Brethren. Zeus. Hades. Chiron. Sisters. Hera. Demetra. Hestia. Wives and girlfriends. Amphitrite. Aethra. Aphrodite. Demetra. Eurynomé. Euryale. Gaia. Iphimedia. Medusa. Phoenix. Tyro. Children of Poseidon. Benthesicyme. Charybdis. Rhodos. Triton. Tizu. Alode. Antu. Arion. Bellerophon. Chrysor. Neleus. Orion. Pegasus. Polypheme. Poseidon married Amphitrite, one of the nymphs known as the Nereids. Together they had 3 children, the siren Triton, Benthesicyme and Rhodes, the patron goddess of Rhodes and the future wife of the god Helios. Like the other male deities, Poseidon had numerous extramarital affairs. Among his many illegitimate descendants were some of the most legendary figures in Greek mythology. From Poseidon's relationship with his grandmother Gaia or Gaia, 2 children were born. The first was the giant Antaeus, who fought Heracles during the 12 labors the demigod had to complete. The second was Charybdis, a sea monster that lurked in the deep waters of the Straits of Messina and formed massive, relentless eddies that swallowed up the vessels of unwary travelers and merchants. Poseidon's lovers also included Aphrodite, but also his sister Demetra, from whose relationship several children were born, including a talking horse named Arion. Poseidon raped Medusa in Athena's temple. From this union were born two other legendary creatures, the winged horse Pegasus and the giant Chrysaor, these emerging from Medusa's neck after the hero Perseus cut off her head. Besides the goddesses, Poseidon also courted many nymphs. An example is the nymph Thoosa, who gave birth to the fearsome Cyclops Polyphemus. But the sea god's adventures did not stop there. He also sought the affection of mortal women, with whom he had several relationships and who gave birth to heroes and other important mythical figures. Among the most famous children of Poseidon we mention Theseus, Attis and Ephialtes, who tried to attack Olympus, Bellerophon, the twins Peleus and Neleus, the hunter Orion and Proteus, who could change his shape. The sons of the god of the seas, Minyas and Boeotus, founded several settlements in the central region of Boeotia. Aeolus founded the fortress of Aeolia, and Eumolpus was a great Thracian king who fought wars with the Athenians. Myths and legends about Poseidon, the god of the seas in Greek mythology. A key element of the myths created around the god of the seas is the countless plots he took part in to subvert established orders, both human and divine. The plot against Zeus. An older story, retold in regrettably brief detail in the Iliad, shows how Poseidon participated in a plot to oust his older brother, Zeus. In this story, the Greek god of the seas and oceans, along with Athena and Hera, conspired to trick the ruler of Olympus and handcuff him to his own throne. Zeus was saved only by the vigilance of Thetis, the sea nymph, who summoned Briareus, one of the 100-armed monstrous creatures known in Greek mythology as the Hecatoncheiri. The Hecatoncheiri had a legendary force. They also participated in the war waged by the Olympians against the Titans and the Giants. Briareus easily held his own against the rebel gods, and their plan to remove Zeus failed. Athens. According to some Greek legends, both Poseidon and the goddess Athena wanted to exert their influence over the city of Athens. As the Athenians could not decide between the two great gods of Olympus, the people asked them to each produce a gift representative of what they could offer the newly founded city. According to the most famous version of the myth, Poseidon struck a rock from which a spring of salt water gushed forth, while Athena produced the first olive tree. The goddess was chosen as the victor. But the god of the seas and oceans was not pleased with the decision made by the mortals, and true to his hot-tempered nature, he raised the waters, flooding a large part of Attica, the region of Greece where Athena is located. A similar myth exists in Argos, although this time Poseidon's rival was Hera. When the people of Argos chose Hera as protector of the city, the angry sea god flooded much of the country, as he had done in Attica. The walls of Troy. According to another Greek legend, Poseidon, together with Apollo, helped Laomedon, king of Troy, to raise the fortifications of his great city. This task is said to have been ordered by Zeus as punishment for the part Poseidon and Apollo played in the Olympians' revolt against him. Poseidon carried out the work as instructed. But the humiliation he was subjected to further fueled his already grudge against Zeus. And when Laomedon refused to pay for the imposing walls that surrounded Troy, Poseidon sent a monstrous sea creature to destroy the city. The monster was eventually slain by Heracles. But the haughty king had learned nothing from previous experience. Again, he tried to escape without paying for the hero's services, and he took cruel revenge by killing Laomedon, sacking Troy and kidnapping his daughter, Hesione. The legend of the Trojan War. Poseidon, like many other Olympians, was involved in the Trojan War, the bloody conflict between the united armies of Greece and the mighty city of Troy. The war, which lasted 10 years, began after the Trojan prince Paris kidnapped Helen, the wife of the Greek king Menelaus. In the conflict, the god of the seas and oceans sided with the Greeks. In Homer's Iliad, which recounts the events of the last fateful weeks of the Trojan War, Poseidon intervened several times to help the Greeks. At a critical moment in the battle, When the Achaeans seemed almost defeated by the Trojan soldiers, Poseidon appeared on the battlefield in the guise of the prophet Calchas. The god used this disguise to avoid possible punishment from Zeus. After the Lord of Olympus had ordered that no other god should get involved in the mortal conflict. Poseidon's resounding entry into battle is rendered thus in the Iliad. Immediately then he descended the mountain slopes, striding forward. And the high mountains and dense forest trembled under Poseidon's immortal feet. He stepped 3 times, and with the 4th step he reached his destination, Aegae, where was his famous golden and shining, imperishable palace built in the depths of the sea. He harnessed to his chariot 2 horses with bronze hoofs, swift in flight, with flowing manes of gold, and he clothed himself in gold, and took hold of the well-wrought golden whip, and set out over the waves. Then the sea beasts struggled on every side in the deep. For they knew their master well, and in joy the sea parted before him. Despite the help given by the god of the seas, the Greeks continued to suffer significant losses, so that Agamemnon, the commander of the army, decided to retreat. Once again, Poseidon intervened, this time with the help of Hera, who distracted Zeus with her feminine charms and lulled him into a deep sleep. Taking advantage of the opportune moment, Poseidon revealed his true identity and took over the leadership of the army for a terrible assault. But the god's howls of anger woke Zeus, who, seeing the devastation caused by his brother, ordered him to immediately withdraw from the battle. However, Poseidon obeyed, according to his words, not out of fear but out of respect for the father of Olympus. Odysseus kills the Cyclops. After conquering the city of Troy, Poseidon turned his inexhaustible fury on Odysseus, the Greek hero whose long journey home was immortalized in Homer's Odyssey. Odysseus had fought on the side of the Achaeans. But by an unfortunate accident he and his crew were forced to land on the island inhabited by the Cyclops Polyphemus, one of Poseidon's children. Polyphemus, a monster that preferred human flesh, began to hunt and eat the members of Odysseus' crew. The few survivors, led by the Greek hero, devised a plan to trick the Cyclops into drinking a strong liquor that immediately put him to sleep. Then, while the giant was fast asleep, Odysseus thrust his spear into his single eye in the middle of his forehead. The monster found itself roaring in pain, groping blindly for the perpetrator. But the feat that allowed Odysseus to escape from the clutches of the Cyclops earned the hero the wrath of Poseidon, who tried to take revenge on 2 occasions. The first time, when Odysseus and his crew were leaving the island of Calypso. The god of the seas and oceans brought a terrible storm upon them. The second time, Poseidon sent another sea creature of his own creation, the monster Charybdis. And this time the revenge plan failed. How the Greeks worshipped Poseidon. As Lord of the seas and oceans. As Lord of the seas and oceans, Poseidon was treated with respect and fear. Greek navigators were well aware of the dangers they faced on their voyages, so many temples dedicated to Poseidon were erected, especially in the great port cities of the Aegean Sea. Although considered primarily a god of the deep, Poseidon's power also extended to the earth, capable of causing devastating earthquakes and landslides. Poseidon was also considered a god of social relations and education. Temples. The god of the seas and oceans was worshipped in hundreds of temples throughout the ancient Greek world, but the most important places of worship were at Corinth, Hellas, in Achaea, and Onchestus, in Boeotia. There was also a shrine dedicated to the god in the Erechtheion in Athens. Next to this shrine is the salt water spring that Poseidon is said to have created when he vied with Athena for the city. The locals still believe that one of the stones near the spring still bears the mark of the trident with which the god once struck it. Most of the temples dedicated to the god of the sea were built on the coast. A remarkably well-preserved example is the Temple of Poseidon at Saunion, located about 70 kilometers southeast of Athens. Festivals. As with the other gods of the Greek pantheon, the ancient Hellenes dedicated several festivals to the god of the seas and oceans. The most important of these were the Isthmian Games, one of the 4 great sporting festivals of ancient Greece, the other 3 being the Olympic Games and the Nemean Games, both in honor of Zeus. And the Pythian Games, in honor of Apollo. The Isthmian Games were held every 2 years near the great temple of Poseidon in Corinth. Participants had to compete in various athletic and musical competitions for the grand prize, a wreath of celery leaves.